guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Johanna, and for those of you who are new here, welcome, and for those of you who are returning, welcome back. Here on my channel I do planner and planner related videos, DIY tutorials, budget videos, and the occasional new release video of items that I've listed to my Etsy shop. And if that is of interest to you, please consider subscribing to my channel, and if you hit that little notification bell, you'll always be notified of when I load a new video. Commenting, liking, and sharing this video on your favorite platform does help my channel grow and is truly appreciated. All right, so for number 9 of my craft series 2019, we're going to make this little micro mini traveler's notebook. And actually, let me get the one that I just did last week and show you the sizing difference. All right, so this is the one, the video that went up last week. All the dimensions and the materials are on Andy's blog post that's linked in this video. But this is a B6, so this is inserts that are 5 by 7. Now this here, I want to say it's called a micro size, but I'm not sure. I'll have to look it up online, and if it is something different, then I'll put it up on the screen when I'm editing. But this is made with mini composition notebooks that are 3 1/4 by 4 1/2. And so this here is just comprised of 3 different composition notebooks, and then it has a traveler's notebook style cover. Now it does look quite a bit different from this because this is not laminated, and this tutorial is going to show you how you can make a traveler's notebook without needing a laminator. Now if you have one, the finish is a lot sturdier. But if you don't and you are really interested in making one of these traveler's notebooks, you can even use this method on making this size, bigger, smaller, just depending on what your inserts are. Because again, once I show you, then you're going to see how it can be used to make any size traveler's notebook. I will have one more video where I'm going to do a traveler's notebook in a third way that does not involve a laminator and that does not involve this particular method. So be on the lookout for that, okay? Now in this video, it's going to be long. Tutorial videos tend to be a bit long just because there's lots of steps, and I will show you how to make the outside cover as well as show you how to cover some of these little notebooks here. And when we get to that part of the video where I show you how to do the spine, I will show you what I did with this method, and then I'll show you an alternative, because again, I'm really just trying to give you as many options as I can so that you can use the materials that are accessible and inexpensive and just readily easy for you to get. Now the notebooks that I'm using, I picked up in Walmart. These are mini composition notebooks. There are 3 to a pack, and again it is 4 1/2 by 3 1/4, and it comes in a book of 3 like this, and I want to say it's like $1. I've been looking in my local Walmart, at least the one that I go to readily, and I haven't seen these, so I don't know if just that Walmart is out or if all Walmarts are out, because that's the one I go to pretty much a couple of times a week. Some of the other ones are harder to get to, and I'm normally not on the lookout for these because I have maybe 5 or 6 of these stacks because I like to craft. So if you can find this in your local Walmart, cool. If you can find mini composition notebooks in your Dollar Tree, Dollar General, Joann's, Michael's, I mean anywhere near you, all of the dimensions are based on this size of notebook. So if you can find notebooks but they're not exactly this size, then some of this may not work for you. Okay, so I wanted to show you what it looks like. And this I find typically in the stationery school supply aisle of my Walmarts. So I've got one here. And what you're going to need is some paper. Now 12 by 12 paper works. Obviously it's way bigger than what we need, so you can actually cover a couple of these. And in this one I used 3 different papers because this cover and this notebook are from the same sheet of paper, and then I also have 2 other colors here. You could make it all of the same color, you can make it all different, you can make this different from the inside. I mean, it just really depends on your style. Now this, because I think it is readily accessible and inexpensive material, you could do this in a group setting, and other than the cutter, just because it's easier for me, there is nothing tool-wise that you really need to add to your toolbox. Now, if you have them, awesome, use them, but if you don't, I'm really trying to get this project so that you can use just things that you have. Now this is a stash that I had in my paper stash. I have tons of paper. This was just the one I picked up on the top. And it's really bad because I normally only have like one of the sets of paper pads. And so like I really like this paper, but I might want to use this for something else. So I'm not going to use it today. I kind of like that. I'm hoarding my stuff, guys. Let's use this one. And so people ask me either in Etsy or here on YouTube for some of the Etsy items that I have, if I could do this, or if I can do that. And I don't do custom orders, so I'm never going to take a custom order, but it's sometimes difficult for me to replicate things that I've done because I only usually have 1 or 2 sheets of paper, and my local Walmart has very minimal scrapbook paper. So everything I typically get, like this was from Amazon or Joann's. Joann and Amazon is where I get all of my paper, and I'm not usually buying multiple packs of things. So usually things are just one and done, but that's another conversation. So to cover the notebook, you are going to need a sheet that is 4.75 high by 12. Now this isn't necessarily directional paper, although I may want to take into account this little piece down here. Actually, no, I don't want to have to worry about that. So I'm going to just trim off this top here, and it's going to be 4.75 or 4 3/4. Now again, you can measure and then use a scissor for this. I'm horrible, so again, you can cut this down in any method. I'm going to use my paper trimmer. And then for your notebook, what you want to do is, now this is actually going to be a little different how I did mine, and I'll show you why in a minute. So you're not going to score it because we're not necessarily going to need a scoreboard for this. And instead of folding it in half, you're going to mold it so that the 2 sides meet up, right? Because there is some width to this, so if we fold it in half, that won't give us a good bend around the spine. And just kind of move that. And it's way more awkward than it needs to be because I'm on camera, but if you guys watched any of my tutorials, you know that's the thing for me. And it doesn't have to be perfect. We're just really trying to train the spine to go there. And then we're also trying to give us at least as close as we can without having to bust out a ruler on these 2 flaps here. So for me, this always means this is the front of the book because the border is on the top, although I have seen where people prefer the border on the bottom. I don't. I like the whitest border at the top, so that's how I'm going to consider the top of my book. And hopefully this is in frame. Now, because I cut this longer than what I need, I, as much as I can, will try to line the paper up with the bottom of this, and that means I only have 1 cut I need to do to clean it up. And then I'm going to fold this one over. Again, we're not using any particular tools. We're just really trying to use what we have. And this one you can score down. If you have a bone folder, use that, but this works just as well. And for this one, again, we're not making a heavy crease because if we do a center crease, it doesn't give us that spine. So we're just really gonna just work this. And then for this one, we're going to fold over just so that it gives us a little bit of security, but we're not gonna do a heavy crease, and I'll tell you why in a little bit. Okay, so just making sure what is our front cover. Now this will be a little finicky because we're trying to make a cover for something that moves. Now for these here, what I did, let me take this one out. No, this one's easier to take care of. Was I didn't fold it in half like I did here. So I put more of the paper on the front cover, and then this back side I made a pocket, and I just glued the two sides down, but it does leave that like little weird piece right there. For this one, what we're going to be doing is, I don't want a pocket in the front, but I will glue it down so that there is a small little pocket in the back. I just wanted to show you the two different ways. Now, and sorry, I'm trying to think of what I want to say. I like to mark where the paper is because my adhesive I'm going to put on here. I'm not going to put on here because I don't know exactly if I have to trim it out and I don't want to waste it. So for this line right there, I'm going to be using double-sided tape. Now this particular double-sided tape has been giving me problems today. And then I'll run it on the edges. And I'll try not to get tape all over. Now I would have preferred to use score tape, and I thought I had more, but this is all that I have, and it's only up to that white spot right there, and I didn't think that would be enough. So we're just going to use the materials that I have ready to me. Now, if you don't have double-sided tape, or if you're going to be assembly lining this, then you can just use some wet glue. And again, do it on here because you'll know that it's going to, how do I say this? If you put on the paper and we have to cut some away, you might be cutting off your adhesive. Yeah. Yeah. All right, now this is where it's going to be a little fussy because we want that bottom edge to be flush. We're not caring about that top edge. And we want to fold this down. And because we have that double-sided tape, we don't have a lot of wiggle room. And then just kind of push that in. Now we might have to trim some at the top there, but we'll see at the end. Again, this we're definitely going to have to cut, but that's fine. And we've got the one flap down. Now, I discovered the hard way that you don't want to glue all this down all at once. And I discovered on this, because this is actually the second time I'm filming. So I glued this down. I colored this with black because I think it can make it look finished, but I didn't do it for here, and I'll talk to you about that in a little while. But then I put all of the glue here, and then I stuck it down. But if you can see, it folded the spine on itself, and that's why the book is sticking out, because now I've essentially made the cover shorter than the pages. So you're going to definitely want to do this step by step versus all at one time, because in that way you can take into account there is that little bit of a give. Again, I want to use my double-sided tape. I don't know if it's just user error, but it normally breaks away if I yank it like that. And then I want to put some there. And this is not something that's going to last years and years, and you actually could just leave the covers as is and maybe just put some stickers on the covers. But if you want your notebooks to coordinate with your outside, and your outside does not coordinate with those colors, then this is just an easy way to cover this. Okay, again, we're more concerned about the bottom edge. We're going to push that in. We're only going to do the one side. We're going to mold the spine around, and then we're going to work on this back side, because what we don't want to do is kind of glue this down like that. And again, focus on these corners. And there, and there. I'm going to run some glue down the spine. It's not going to be super sticky, and it's not going to come apart because we've got the two sides. I just want to give it a little bit of adhesion, and then I want to put this here. Now I'm using Tombow, but you can use actually any glue for this. And we want to run this against the spine so that we don't make our cover shorter. And then kind of try to maneuver it so that we've got that bottom flush. And now we can actually make our crease against the paper. Now, as a pocket, this might be a little big. So I'm just gonna cut some off. And you could leave it, but I think it's gonna be a little big as either a pocket or a tuck spot. And that's probably about 1 inch. I don't want to cut it beforehand because, again, depending on how I mold it, and if this isn't exactly 3.5 or 3.25 by 4.5, then I might be cutting for no reason. I'd rather cut off later than cut off before and it'd be too short. Now this one here as well, I'm going to make some dots because I'm gluing the notebook. I'm not gluing the paper. And this just tells me, okay, if I run the bead on the notebook, then I'll make sure that the glue stays on the notebook and not on paper I might be cutting away. Okay, and I've got a little there and a little there, and that essentially makes my pocket. I've got a little bit of excess glue there, but that's fine. Now this glue does dry pretty fast, but it's not instant, so I'm actually going to put this under here, and we'll talk about this before we start moving on to our cover. Now, I generally like to color in the spine black because with a composition notebook, at least generally speaking, it has this black sort of fabric thing because it is a different texture than the book itself, but it is only on the outside. It is never on the inside, but I like to make it look like it's on the inside, especially if my paper doesn't line up. Now for this one here, I did the black and then I did a washi tape, and so it really just sort of masks and makes it look like it always was meant to be like that. And then for this back one where I have the pocket, again, I can't color straight and you can kind of see that, but that sort of just hides a multitude of sins. It looks finished and yet it's easy to do, and we can do that with the one I just did. It's just I wanted to show you why I put the black on the spine. For this one, I'm just going to leave it because, again, because we're covering it, it's just really based on user choice, but I think either way would work. This one is not a functional pocket, this one is. Now for this cover, what I did was, it's just, again, a cardstock paper that I've cut to these dimensions here. So your cover is going to be 5 inches high by 8 inches wide, and then you're going to want to score at 3.5 and at 4.5. And what it does, it gives you that really boxy edge that holds 3 of these notebooks perfectly. Now it won't hold much else, but it will hold these 3 perfectly. Now that I used just paper, but I think for this example, I'm going to use a file folder. Again, use materials that are readily accessible to you. This gives us a little bit of sturdiness, and then I'll show you the method on how I covered this using a file folder. Now this is the file folder that I'm going to be using for this project. I actually only need one side. And so I will cut it off. Small space problems, guys. Small space problems. So I'm just going to get rid of this. And I'm going to get rid of that side because I do want all of my sides to be straight. And I'm going to cut it 5 inches tall. And then I'm going to cut it 8 inches long. And after I cut this, I will clean up my space and I'll show you the next steps. Okay, so the next step that I would normally do is I would use my corner rounder because I have it, and I especially things that are covering something else, I like to have that edge. But let's say you don't have a corner rounder, and for something thick like this or something laminated, this works a treat. Some of those just little handheld ones, they can break, because I know I broke one before I got this. So the other thing that you can do is if you have washi or just something round really, then you can line the washi roll or whatever round object you have so that you can kind of trace around it. And it's hard for me to see because I'm trying to keep you in frame. So that wasn't the greatest example, so maybe I can do a better job here. And you just want to move it, and I'm hoping you can see this. You just want to move it so that it hits an edge on either side so that you can just draw a circle. Yeah, that one is definitely better. Again, if you have the tools, use them, but if you don't, and you're not going to be doing tons of these, then just use what you have. You could also have traced that because it's rounded. And then we'll do this as well. And that one's not going to be as pretty because I have so many lines. I'm actually not sure which one to follow, but I think you get the idea. Now for the template, I have a scoreboard, but you may not have a scoreboard. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this down so that it lines up. But I'm going to put it a little bit taller so that I can mark some dots. And what I think I'll do is I'll scan this particular piece of paper in the computer and link this as a printable in the blog post if you wanted to use this. And that way you don't have to measure anything. I'll make sure that you'll be able to cut around this so that you can make a template, and then you'll have these marks already. And then we'll do the same here. We'll make sure the edges are lined up so that we can make our little dots. Now this is the first time I'm going to try out this particular method, so fingers crossed. I'm going to use a ballpoint pen. Again, if you have a scoreboard, then just use your scoring tool and your scoreboard, and this is easy. But if you don't, get a ballpoint pen. It'd be even better if it has no ink, but because you'll see it. But again, I think we can cover this up if you don't. Or you can use a blunt pencil. Nothing sharp because you don't want to pierce your paper, but really we're just trying to make a divot or a little valley in this. It isn't so much to make the mark as it is so that we can easily fold our paper. And because this is a file folder, without that, it's not going to want to bend. But you can see that it really easily bends because we've made that little divot with our pen. And we'll do the same here. Again, if it had no ink, it'd be even better, because then we're just using the blunt edge. We're not actually trying to ink this up. And you can see it bends a lot easier than it did. Now you would definitely want to do this on the inside, because if we made this on the outside, it wouldn't want to bend the way that we want it to bend. And you can see right there, it makes a really cute cover. Now, of course, you'd want to do this in pencil, or you'd want to do it so that you can cover this up if you're making mistakes like me. But again, I'm showing you how to do this. Now for this inside, because our spine is going to get the most wear and tear, I actually want to add in some washi just so that I can give this the best chance of being as sturdy as I can. Now that one I think would work, but I have very little of this, and I actually want to use this in a planner spread. All right, so I grabbed this from my stash. Now I have tons of other washi, and this is not the best option, but I didn't want to get up again. So I'm going to run this on the inside. Now this is going to be covered by something, so it doesn't matter if it's not super sticky. But what does matter is that I want to make sure that I'm on the inside of that score. I don't want to be on top of that score. I just want to be on the inside. Again, we're just trying to make some support for our spine. And again, I don't want to go on the line. I want to go slightly under. It's hard for me to see because of the angle so that you guys can see. And then I will have it rest on itself and cut that off. And I'm telling you, it is a lot easier when you're doing this, but trying to show in frame, on camera, with a little bit of space, it just makes it seem like it's way more awkward than it needs to be. Again, I'm going to run this down. I can't really see the mark. Okay. And then cut it. And then we're going to do one right in the middle, just for good measure. And I want it to start and stop in the inside, because we're really not going to see that once the inserts are there. So it's okay that it's a little messy. Okay, now you could actually just cover your entire book with washi and then decorate it that way. Now, whatever you decide to do with your book, you're going to want to do all of the decorations before you do this next step. So what I'm going to do, this is a sticker book that I got from my friend Christy as Happy Mail. It just was the very first sticker book on top of the pile. And I'm going to look for a quote to go right there. I don't necessarily want it on clear paper. This one's cute, because I want it to be distinguished from the cover. You don't have to do this step, but I want to make it a little bit more decorative, but I need to do all of that before I do this next step. So that's the only decoration I'm going to do with that front cover. I'm not going to do anything here. Now the way that we're going to laminate this without a laminator is by using clear contact paper. Now I have this in my stash. I think from what I've heard, you can pick this up at the Dollar Tree, and it hopefully should only be $1. The one that I have is clear matte. If there is a clear glossy, again, depending on what's available to you, go ahead and pick this up. I picked this up at Walmart, and this entire roll was like $6, I think, but it's lasted. So I want to cut a piece. That's as wide as this. Now this project is really easy with this contact paper because it's so small. The bigger you get with the surface area, the more chances you are to have bubbles and it not work out perfectly. So just a little word to the wise. And just to make sure that it's going to cover, just place it on top, because I don't care if there's extra, I just want to make sure it's at least this big. So we do need 2 pieces, so I'm just going to cut this in half. Now, if there's any decorations that you want to put on the inside, do it now, because we're actually going to be covering the inside first. Now, I learned that if you put nail polish remover on this particular paper, and this is a different kind of contact paper, it's going to take up the paint. So, because I wanted to clean my surface, and that's why that looks like that. Now this is a contact paper that I picked up from Amazon. I think it's supposed to go on your wall. So I'm going to need to change this because this is contact paper on top of a foam board, just so it makes a nice background. But yeah, just if you were wondering why that looks like that. But when you are doing this, you want to make sure, because we're going to stick this to the surface, you want to make sure that it's not a paper surface or that it's a surface that you can peel this up off of. Because if you put this on paper, then you're going to have a problem, and I'll show you why. Now for this inside, what we do is we open up a little. Now, as much as possible, you want to try not to get fingerprints on that because you can see it. And again, awkward because on camera, we want to fold this white part back, and we kind of want to center this, and I want to stick that down to my surface because then I know this isn't going to move. And I've got a gift card here, and I'm just going to pull the paper away from me slowly so that I can control how it hits my surface. Because if I try to peel this up and lay it down, I'm going to get crazy bubbles. But if you just do it small and rub it in as you're going, then you give yourself the best chance of not having any bubbles. Bubbles don't hurt, they just look ugly. And you can go quickly towards the end and then really just buff this in. Now for your washi and for your crease there, you're going to want to really buff that in. I think you guys get the point. And then really buff it in to the edges. Now it's sticky, but it's not super sticky. So the more you buff it in, the more contact it gets from it. Now this is stuck to my surface. Now if this was a paper surface, then all of this would have that paper on it. Now for this side, that's not a problem, but when we do this side, that is. So again, make sure that whatever your surface is, whether it's plastic, whether it's glass, whether it's a craft mat, just make sure that 1, it's clean, but 2, that you can pull off adhesive like this and not have whatever it is stuck to that. Now for this inside one, we are gonna cut it right at the edge of our project. And we're going to go around, and you definitely need to round it, at least I think, before you put this contact paper on. I think it just makes it easier. And then we'll go all the way around again, flush to our project. When you do this, as I mentioned in all of my tutorial videos, take your time. There's no rush. Now, even though I did say this would be a long video, I still don't want it to be like 2 hours long, because that means I still need to edit a 2-hour long video. But that's our inside surface. We're going to make sure that we can still bend, so that's good to go. Again, I can work in the paper a little bit more, but I think you guys get the idea. And we're going to do the exact same for this outside. I actually think that looks really pretty. And again, does it matter? Nope, it doesn't matter. So we're going to do the same. And so we want to make an edge, trying to touch it as little as possible. Fold this back, kind of move this, and then stick this down. Now I know I have more gap area on the sides than I have on the top and the bottom, because I do want a little bit to fold over. So actually I'll move that down. So we're going to press that down and do that same trick, where we're going to just pull a little bit at a time and press in as we go. And really buff that in. And that file folder is kind of cute. I like it. I don't remember where I picked it up. I have tons of file folders in my stash. I think it's nice. Again, really pay attention to the edges. And then lift this one up. Now this one, we are not going to cut flush, because we want to give some extra protection to the sides of this. Now this is not going to last as long as a leather traveler's notebook, or even a laminated traveler's notebook, but I think it's a great alternative if the leather or the laminator is just not available to you. So I just want to make this kind of even on all the sides. Doesn't have to be perfect. Get this out of the way. And then for the corners here, because I don't want it bunching up, I kind of want to do this sort of boomerang action, where it's sort of more curved than a triangle. So I just kind of want to snip. And we may still need to cut away some of it once we fold it over, but I find this works the best. And snip, and then snip. And that smudge is underneath the contact paper. It's on the file folder. Now, I think we'll do our long sides. I don't know that it matters, but you want to pull it taut so that it really hugs the side of the paper. And then you want this as smooth as possible. Now you're going to be able to see the layer, but again, we're just trying to make this as sturdy as we can with the products that we have. So really buff that in, and then just go on all of the sides and do the same. And then this one. And this one. Now I think this would be a great project if you are doing in a group, because again, you could have different paper pads, you could have quite a few of those books, and then everything else, like I said, hopefully is readily accessible. I don't know if you can see it, but some of that is folded in on itself, and so I just want to make that smooth. Now this is not as professional looking as a laminated, at least rushing like this. I think if you take your time and really pay attention to the details, you can make this look as amazing as you have the skill level and patience for. I think I have the skill level, I don't have the patience. And then again, we want to fold this in, and we really want to buff that down. And essentially, we have a laminated, as it were, cover. I've got, I don't know if it's a pet peeve of yours, but I hate when these little pieces stick to me. Now I can see air bubbles. Again, air bubbles don't hurt your project. They look ugly. And then if you put anything on the surface, there will be a little bit of an air bubble, but you can kind of buff that out by just working the edges. And I think that is sweet. Now, if you use a file folder, you already amp up the sturdiness level versus just using a piece of paper, because this is very bendy. But again, we're just really trying to protect our notebooks. So, I mean, whatever products you have available, then just use that. Okay, so we'll go back to our little notebook and we'll finish this up, and then we'll work on the elastic part, and then we'll be done. So again, tops and bottoms, I don't know if you can see, there's a slight protrusion. So this part I'll cut because it's sticking out, but I won't cut anything more than that for the bottom part. And then this one looks okay. And then for this top part, I'll kind of eyeball it, and I'll just cut flush. And then I'll just follow the notebook cover. Now, as you know, I love to round my corners. Now, if you have the corner rounder, use that. Just makes it infinitely easier. If you don't, you can actually kind of feel where that rounded corner is, and then you can cut it. And then do the same on this edge. I think this might be a great project for older children and teens to do, maybe like as a gift for friends. And then again, if you have the corner chomper, it's just easier. There, one and done. But I don't know that it necessarily looks any better or worse than what we did by hand. Yeah? So we'll move that. We do have our little pocket here. Now, if you wanted to add some washi there, if you wanted to add some stickers here, again, you can make this as decorative as you want. You can put a mat here and then a sticker here, and you can use a little closure if you just wanted to give this little decorated mini notebook, because I think this looks sweet. In fact, let's pull out our sticker book. Now, I'm not the greatest at layering, so this may not be as fantastic as I'm hoping it will be. But we will do a little bit of that right there. And yep, that's my cover, and a little bit of that right there. And a little bit of that right there. Now, if you don't have sticker books, you could use this with construction paper or scrapbook paper or whatever it is you have in your stash. I happen to have this, so not gonna lie, that looks all kinds of sweet to me. Alrighty, so let me show you how you can make the spine. Now the spine on this one is as easy as I think you can do with very minimal materials. So I'll take these off and show you. Now what I did with this one was, we did all the steps we've already done together, and then I cut little half moons at the top here so that the rubber bands that I have can just nestle in there. Now, is this going to last forever? No. Will it eventually rip through? It might. So if this is what you have available to you, then definitely use this, because these covers I think are easy enough to put together, and that will go away once you put your inserts in. But another way that you can make your spine, let me get some order going on here. Now, the reason why I wanted to show you the two ways is this hole punch, it is too big, I think, if we put two holes next to each other. Actually, you know what? I think we can get away with it, because I do have a crocodile that has a smaller hole punch, and if you have a smaller hole punch, then use that. But this standard hole punch here, I think will still work, because we definitely want it big enough so that we can put our elastic in, but we don't want it so close to each other that it's going to break. Again, I'm just doing this by eyeball. So I'm going to cut the two dots there, and then I'll do the same down here. Now this particular method is different from the B6, because the B6 I'm working with a 2-inch spine. This is an inch spine, so I know I can't get 3 of the holes here. And kind of line that up. Okay, and because I know this is not going to fit in the middle there where people normally put it, I like to put mine in the front here. Actually, I put it a little lower so it doesn't cover the words. And so there's that. Now I have various elastics on the roll because I do make traveler's notebooks, but I believe Walmart, this is where I got this, Walmart has stretch cord. Now this is really thin. I don't even know. It says 22.9 millimeter. Oh no, I think that's how long it is. It doesn't say how thick this is, but it does stretch and it would work. But this is 2 millimeter thickness, so I think this works better. If you can find it in your Dollar Tree, if you can find it at Walmart, if you can find it in your local Aldi's, I mean, get that, but this is what I have. And I like to make it so that it's, because we have these 2 holes, it's going to be 2 times the height of it with just a little bit extra. And we want all of our elastic to end inside. We want to make our outside as finished as possible. So we're going to thread it so that there's just that little piece out there. And then we're going to go down and we're going to thread in there, and we're going to thread in there. And we kind of want to tie this so that it's tight, but not so tight that it makes it buckle. And then we want to put a knot, but not so tight, because if you need to take this up, you want to give yourself the best chance. You want to make it taut enough so that your stuff doesn't fall out, but you don't want to make it so tight it curls this. Like that. That's kind of what you want to avoid. With the rubber band, there's just no option. There's no give. This one you can play around with the give. And then for the outside cover, I just like to go the width of it plus a little bit more, because I'd rather have too much than too little. I'm going to tie that in a knot. And because the hole is rather big, because I don't typically use this, but because the hole is kind of big, we want to make sure a knot is kind of big so that it doesn't slip through. And then, yeah, see, it won't go through. At least I hope it won't go through. And that is how we thread it. Now to put our notebooks on here, because this is the prettiest one, we'll put this in front. You just slide this underneath, and so that's one notebook. And then what you want to do, at least with these, or any of them, but at least with these have the thread that you can see in the exact middle because they are sewn, they are not glued. So you're going to want to look for the middle and then stick that on there. And so that's our 2 notebooks. And because we only have the 2 elastics, what you can do is what I did here is you take either a rubber band, sorry, it's stuck to the washi, or you can cut this down to size and you put this around it, just like that. And then that gives you sort of a jump ring effect where you can now slide in another notebook so that you get your 3 notebooks. And because we have the 1-inch spine that covers it in full, doesn't really give you a lot of room to add anything else, but it covers these in full, and it is shorter, if you can see, than our cover, which is good. And then we can do that right there. Now that might be problematic. Now because I have the crocodile, I'd probably go ahead and use one of my eyelets to make this secure, and I know that this won't pop up, but again, if this is the materials you have, you can make this adorable little book. Again, this outside is protected. It is a bit waterproof now because we put that contact paper. I think this looks really sweet. You can coordinate your colors a lot better than I did. I was lazy and I didn't want to pull up a lot of things from various places in here. But I think this makes a sweet little gift. If you do laminate it, again, the process is the same. The dimensions are the same. It's just you run it through your laminator. But I think this is a great alternative to a laminator, and this is something you can do as a group. And I think it's easy enough once you see the steps that older children and teenagers can do this as well. It doesn't need a lot of tools, as you can see, and I think the tools it does use are readily accessible. All right, guys, like I said, I will have one more Traveler's Notebook in this craft series in the next few weeks, and it'll be a different size and it'll be a different method, so you'll have as many alternatives as you can to make one of these sweet little books. I'd love to know what you think of this size and this method. Definitely leave me a comment in the comment section below. Thank you so much for following me on this journey, and as always, aloha.